Bickley and Marotta mornings. Arizona sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
The Phoenix Suns have a magic number. It's 85, and from day one, I believe that number represents the amount of points they need from their big three every game if they're going to win that elusive championship. Now, they hit that number on the head last night in a win against the Bucks, and best of all, the 85 points they produced last night was all about balance, not fueled by one transcendent performance, and that, folks, is how this basketball team can win a championship. That is how this basketball team can avoid some of the fourth quarter meltdowns that have been a recurring nightmare. Now, granted, the victory wasn't what it might have been, as the Bucks were missing two of their best players, lost another starter in the first quarter, but beating Giannis is never easy and always an accomplishment, so there's that. Now, the glaring holes in the program have not magically disappeared. The lack of a point guard, the occasional lack of edge, urgency, and energy, and a wafer-thin bench, there are still legitimate concerns. And the trade deadline might bring another new piece into the mix, requiring even more assimilation and integration. But the big three have been together now since December 29th, and their availability and sustainability has to be very promising, and each game together has to bring them closer to what will be our final solution, a championship that will be won or lost on a much different kind of triangle offense. So 85 points as a benchmark, and like I said, I think the best thing to me about it last night, Vinny, was the balance. As you said earlier, it was Devin Booker, and then it was KD, then it was Bradley Beal, and that to me is what's going to make this team kind of ascend, to take some of these last steps that I think they need to get there.
Yeah, but you brought up some things too that are still concerns, and you know, there's not a magic elixir that's going to happen by winning one game. And one of the things that's been talked about, especially with this looming trade deadline, it's getting louder and louder, is this point guard issue. You know, it's probably not going to get fixed. This was a path that the Suns went down in the offseason. They had a point guard on their roster in the offseason after all the movement, and they traded Cameron Payne away to San Antonio for basically nothing of use.
Yes.
He ended up getting bought out, ended up in Milwaukee. Ironically, he made his return last night. And early in the game, it really stood out. The Suns had, you know, when they broke for halftime, 3 assists, team-wide, 3 assists. We talked to Bobby Hurley earlier this season. ASU had a game where they had 3 assists in a game. You can expect that in college basketball. Not in the NBA in the year 2024.
Yep.
With the way that Cameron Payne was able to generate some things. You know, he got some extended time because Damian Lillard didn't play. Now, was he great? No. But, you know, people are saying the Suns need that backup point guard. He could have played that role. I don't think they're going down that path between now and tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I just don't.
I don't either.
This is basically the team that they're going to have from a point guard standpoint.
Yes.
I am curious to see, to bring up the term you mentioned in the blast too, how much assimilation will be needed. Will they be able to make a deal? And this Miles Bridges thing is still looming out there, and the reports, at least lately, are that the Hornets are still holding out for a first-round pick. I'm not even. If the Suns don't have one to deal, I think it would be irresponsible right now for any team to give up a first-round pick.
Yeah, so do I. And I heard Gamble say that part of the deal from the Miles Bridges camp, in the case of this particular player, is the desire to get him to a place where to a team that might want to sign him long-term. Is there any team ready to commit that to Miles Bridges just yet? So I don't know if they're going to get what they're looking for either. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting. We're going to talk to Bobby Marks in a little bit, and Bobby has got the insider's view of this whole thing about, you know, trade exceptions and different things that are available to the Suns that will not be available to them once the trade deadline passes on Thursday. So they've got some avenues and some things that they can exploit if they can find the right pieces, and that really remains to be seen, in my opinion. And then again, you've got to take a look at this team as it is right now. And if you look at Bol and the contributions he's making, and Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon, what more does this team need? What really will make a difference? You know, I do. There are times when I look at this basketball team, and the thing that worries me that I don't think you saw last night, because the Bucks were not only handicapped, but the Bucks are no longer a premier defensive team.
No.
The lack of a point guard really seems to be exploited when you're playing really good defensive teams.
Yes.
And we saw this with Chris Paul during the playoffs. The amount of backcourt pressure applied to the point guard of the Phoenix Suns the last go around in the playoffs, I can only imagine what it's going to be this time around. With this situation.
Well,
so
to your point on that, it became a big talking point. Go back to the New Orleans series, but late in games, Chris Paul is one of the most accomplished point guards that's ever laced up a pair of sneakers in this league.
Mm-hmm.
And he got hit with that defensive strategy.
Yep.
And the Suns struggled with it.
Yes.
And that was Chris Paul, elite fourth quarter point guard closer. So, yeah, the further you get into the postseason, when these games have more weight and more gravity, it's going to get even worse.
Yeah. And then the other issue is, how do the Suns get to playing with the requisite pace they need when they don't have this definition as at primary ball handler? It's been an issue, because that was the number one reason that a lot of people, myself included, were on board with the Chris Paul trade, is because for all the good stuff he brings a basketball team, for all the knowledge and the wisdom and experience and calmness and all that, the pace of play was a real issue last year. And so the assumption was it wasn't going to be an issue this year. Well, it is, and it has been. And maybe a lot of that stems from guys trying to get comfortable with one another, guys trying to be generous with the basketball and distributing it freely. There could be a lot of reasons for it, but they do need to up the tempo at which they play with. I think they did that. I think there was a concerted effort to do that in the second half last night,
yes.
And I think you could see it. And when they play like that, it's like, okay, that looks closer to being a real formidable basketball team.
Yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of it, a lot of the pluses, too, that we've talked about this morning start on the defensive side of the ball. It starts with Kevin Durant, his willingness to take on Giannis. And I thought it was interesting after the game, Kevin Durant said, look, I didn't look at this as some big one-on-one matchup at all. It was about winning the basketball game. I don't know if you saw Giannis on social media after the game. It was a still shot of him going one-on-one against Devin Booker and said, I love playing against the best. So he obviously viewed it a different way. And Kevin Durant, who didn't view it as a one-on-one matchup, is the one that's relishing the win right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting to me. But again, I think it's also what KD has done this year at his age is kind of reconfirmed to a lot of people, I think, inside the game, that, wow, this is not normal for a 35-year-old big to be playing at the level he's playing. Mm-hmm. And it's a tribute to Kevin Durant. And so I think that's why I still believe that there was a belief coming into this year and after the trade for Kevin Durant that Kevin Durant's going to be the guy that helps Devin Booker and Phoenix get to their first championship. I've flipped that thing on its ear. I look at it now as we are the city that is perfect for Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker is the perfect sidekick for Kevin Durant, and maybe it's our purpose to get him that redemption, to get him that championship that is not going to be, oh, well, you had to go play with Steph Curry to get that. And if that does happen, it's going to have a dramatic effect on the word that KD claims to not care about, legacy.
Yeah, but, I mean, to branch that out league-wide, what Durant is doing, what LeBron is doing 4 years further down the road, and, I'll get my pokes in at LeBron, but we've never seen 39-year-olds do this before in the NBA. Steph Curry hitting 60. He's Kevin Durant's age. I mean, something to be said for the old guys. Still doing it at a high level.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And it was there was a feeling maybe earlier this year that this new generation, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, De'Aaron Fox, these guys were kind of saying, mine. It's our time.
Yeah.
And these guys, probably saying not quite yet.
Yeah, it might be another year or two down the road before the De'Aaron Foxes and SGAs and Anthony Edwards can make that claim like this league is mine. I know there's always a tendency that, a lot of people want to see that passing of the torch because of what we've talked about in football so much, that fatigue factor. If we're sick of the Kansas City Chiefs at this point, what's the fatigue factor like on LeBron James?
Oh, I've had it for years. You know that. And I know you're exactly the same.
I've had it since about 2008.
The other interesting development, much to the chagrin of some Suns fans, is the fact that Grayson Allen is not going to be part of the All-Star Game's three-point shooting contest. But if you read about it, you're going to find out that Grayson Allen already has vacation plans with his wife. So I don't think Grayson Allen really wanted to go anyways.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if the NBA would ever admit this, I think they want to rely on the players that are actually headed to the destination city to participate in the All-Star Game to fill in those spots. Now, they can't
unless you're in the dunk contest.
They can't do it in the dunk contest. Oh, I guess Jaylen Brown's going to do it, which is cool. But with the three-point contest, it's usually the guys that are on All-Star rosters because it's a little less taxing. And I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Grayson Allen has had a fantastic first half of the season. He's earned a little bit of time off.
Right. I totally agree with that. And it didn't sound like it was something that interested him anyway, so it's all good.
No.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.